One ordinary day when I decided to accept a ride from Adam, a colleague of my husband's. I never expected that ride to be a turning point, awakening a part of myself I thought was long forgotten. At 54, I find myself reflecting on a life spent adhering to the established norms and expectations of womanhood. Married at a young age, I nurtured 2 daughters and remained steadfastly loyal to my husband through every trial and triumph. I held fast to the audacity of routine, cherishing the life I crafted in silence, even as it dwindled and lost its luster over the years. To me, love was unwavering, neither exhilarating nor innovative, merely acquainted. Yet, an event unfolded not long ago, an occurrence that eludes my complete understanding. It was an unexpected turn of events. It was never intended to carry any significance, and yet, it prompted me to reevaluate everything I believed about my identity and the person I assumed I would always be. Never did I imagine that such an event could unfold in my life. I urge you avoid the error I once made. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the sort of gray, unremarkable day when time seems to linger just a bit longer. Once more my car had succumbed to its mechanical woes, marking the 3rd time this month. Meanwhile, James, my husband, found himself ensnared in meetings that stretched on through the afternoon. When his colleague Adam extended the offer to drive me home from the grocery store, I accepted without a moment's hesitation. I had crossed paths with Adam at the handful of company functions I had attended throughout the years. He was in his late 30s, younger than James, and spoke with a calm, assured demeanor. He consistently exuded politeness and respect, embodying the type of man who would hold the door open and meet your gaze as he inquired about your well-being. Though I had never pondered it deeply, I often observed how his gaze lingered, not in a way that crossed boundaries, but simply longer than that of others. Casual conversation flowed between us in the parking lot. He graciously volunteered to stow my bags in the trunk of his silver sedan, which, to my surprise, was tidier than I had anticipated for a bachelor. "Are you certain this doesn't divert you from your path?" I inquired, easing into the passenger seat. He smiled. "Not at all. I reside a mere 10 minutes beyond your location. Provides me with a perfect reason to leave the office ahead of schedule." His voice carried a gentle quality, imbued with warmth and a leisurely cadence. It instilled in me a peculiar sense of safety, a sensation I rarely experienced around other men. With James, every interaction had taken on a transactional nature. Tasks like grocery lists, settling bills, and retrieving the dry cleaning. I held no resentment toward him for it. Isn't that what marriage transforms into after 3 decades? As we exited the lot, the sun pierced through the clouds for a fleeting instant. The dashboard glowed with a warm hue, and I caught Adam stealing a sideways glance at me, his hand resting casually on the wheel. "You appear to be quite reserved," he remarked. I merely shrugged my shoulders. "Today has unfolded in a way that feels all too familiar." "You're familiar with the experience." He refrained from pressing further, merely nodding, his gaze returning to the road ahead. Yet there was an undeniable quality to his presence that enveloped the car, making it impossible to overlook. Devoid of romance, merely present, absorbing the sounds around. Our conversation meandered through the familiar topics: the flow of vehicles, the shifting skies, a charming new bakery that had just opened its doors on Elm. I discovered a surprising amount of laughter escaping me, particularly when he recounted the tale of James's ill-fated attempt to repair the office coffee machine, resulting in a deluge in the break room. "He conveniently left that detail out," I remarked, dabbing the tears of laughter that had gathered at the corners of my eyes. "He likely omitted the detail where he placed the blame on the intern," Adam remarked, a grin spreading across his face. I chuckled once more, allowing the silence to settle in. The vibrant hum of the city gradually diminished as we glided into the more tranquil expanse of Maple Lane. The homes appeared bathed in the warm embrace of golden afternoon light, evoking a sense of familiarity and safety. At that moment we found ourselves halted at a stoplight. We lingered in quietude for a brief interlude. There was an unusual quality to that stillness, as if the moment had exhaled a breath of its own. Adam glanced my way, not with grandiosity or flair, but simply enough to connect our gazes. "Could I pose a question to you, Laura?" I nodded, a sense of uncertainty washing over me as my pulse seemed to echo in my ears. "Have you ever pondered whether you remain visible to others?" The question struck a chord deep within me, awakening memories from a distant past I had long since forgotten. "Seen," I murmured gently. He offered another nod. "What I mean is, beyond the roles of being a wife or a mother, it's about just being you." I averted my gaze to the window, watching the houses glide past, striving to maintain a steady tone in my voice. "At all times," I declared. The light shifted to green, yet we remained still for a moment longer. He paused for a moment, as though allowing me the opportunity to elaborate. I did not. I was unable to. With a soft touch he eased his foot onto the gas pedal, allowing the car to glide ahead. Silence enveloped us for several moments. A shift had occurred in the atmosphere, more substantial, more serene. Yet my mind was in a frenzy. The journey progressed in quietude for a time. Yet it was not a silence that yearned for interruption. It seemed as though something was gradually revealing itself between us. With a sense of careful hesitation, I sat with my hands neatly folded over my purse, gazing out the window, feigning admiration for the orderly rows of houses and the vibrant lilacs gracing the front yards. Yet within I found myself in a realm altogether different. Adam's question at the stoplight echoed in my thoughts, a dropped stone sending ripples across the still surface of my mind. "Have you ever pondered whether you remain in the gaze of others?" He had not intended it to be flirtatious. Perhaps he had indeed. Certainty had slipped through my fingers, leaving me in a haze of doubt. Yet, regardless of the circumstances, it marked the first occasion in years when someone gazed at me and didn't merely perceive me as James's wife or the woman who consistently contributes potato salad to the cookout. As we made the turn onto my street, I cast a sidelong glance at Adam. His profile exuded tranquility and concentration. Neither a smirk nor a knowing glance was present. He had no intention of steering me in any direction. He had merely observed my presence. "Thank you for the ride," I murmured as he eased the car into my driveway. He left the car idling, neglecting to shift it into park. "Laura," he said, his voice low yet resolute, "I didn't intend to make you feel uncomfortable. I trust that I did not." "I did not," I responded swiftly. "It's simply that no one has posed a question like that to me in ages." He glanced my way then, truly gazing, and an urge surged within me to occupy my hands, to engage my eyes. Anything to ground myself. "I've observed the manner in which you conduct yourself," he remarked. "Within you there exists a vibrant essence that remains undeniably alive. Yet, I perceive that you've been advised to conceal it." A warmth crept to my cheeks, not quite embarrassment, but rather a vivid awareness of being addressed in a language I hadn't encountered in years. Words escaped me in that moment. As my hand extended toward the door handle, anticipation coursed through me. Yet, just as I was about to open it, he interjected, asking if it would be all right for him to accompany me to the porch. For a moment I paused. The logical side of me, the one that handled finances, crafted birthday treats, and nudged James to remember his blood pressure medication, shouted a resounding no. Yet a different part of my being, subdued yet resolute, whispered in affirmation. I acquiesced, confident in my agreement. We strolled along the brief path leading to the entrance. The flickering of my porch light caught my attention, prompting a mental note to enlist James's help, though deep down, I was aware that I would likely tackle the task myself. I rummaged through my bag for the keys, the tension taut like a thread woven between us. Neither constricted nor uneasy, merely delicate. "I apologize if I overstepped," he said, lingering a step behind me. "Text," I said again, turning to face him. "You didn't." It can be quite challenging to navigate a moment such as that. He inclined his head, his hands tucked away in his pockets. At times it seems that certain moments unfold merely to remind us of our humanity, our enduring capacity to feel deeply. Once more it emerged, an unwavering sincerity that required no reply yet stirred an undeniable urge to respond. "Thank you," I murmured, my voice trembling slightly. He gazed at me for a fleeting moment, then offered a soft smile. "Wishing you a pleasant evening, Laura." "Likiji se." Adam. He pivoted and strolled back to his car, leaving me standing there for a moment, key in hand, the front door still securely locked behind me. As my world subtly transformed, as I crossed the threshold, the house enveloped me in a shroud of dimness. The lingering aroma of lemon cleaner permeated the air, a remnant of the afternoon's diligent wipe down. I placed my purse on the counter and lingered in the kitchen, absorbing the quietude that enveloped me. It lacked the intensity of a dramatic moment. Nothing had transpired in the conventional manner, no boundaries breached, no kisses taken, and yet an event had transpired. A sensation gripped me, manifesting as a constriction in my chest and a dull throb in my hands. Adam had caught sight of me, and now I found myself unable to look away from my own reflection. The subsequent days unfolded with an oddity that was subtle, lurking in the hushed recesses of my daily life. As I folded the laundry, strolled by the mirror, and poured my morning coffee, his question reverberated in my thoughts. "Have you ever pondered whether you remain visible to others?" It lingered in my mind with a soft, haunting presence. James remained oblivious to any changes around him. He seldom engaged in that activity now. We had entered that phase of our marriage where silence felt comfortable. It was simply the way we expressed ourselves. He inquired whether I had settled the utility bill. I would inquire whether he recalled to remove the trash. We lay next to each other, our backs touching, our discussions primarily revolving around plans rather than emotions. I held no resentment towards him. I truly did not. Yet an increasing awareness stirred within me, a realization that I was beginning to fade away. First gradually, then in a sudden rush. 2 days later, a message from Adam arrived. "Adam, I trust this isn't overstepping any boundaries, but I'm about to head out for coffee shortly. Would you care to join me? There's no need to feel any pressure." The message held my gaze for what felt like an eternity. It was within my power to overlook it. Perhaps I ought to have done so, however I did not. Is it me? Where might that be? Our paths crossed at a quaint little spot nestled at the intersection of 5th and Lawson. It lacked extravagance, a quaint coffee shop adorned with ivy that gracefully climbs its exterior, its windows inviting the soft morning light within. Arriving early, I selected a booth tucked away in the back, a choice driven by the desire for safety and the wish to remain unnoticed. Upon his arrival, a look of surprise crossed his face at the sight of me already present, yet I found myself equally astonished. He settled into the seat opposite me, offering a subtle smile. "I appreciate your presence here today." I nearly refrained, I admitted honestly, swirling my coffee even though it remained unadorned. Indeed, a silence lingered in the air. Yet again it was not discomforting, merely contemplative. "I've been reflecting on your words. I've come to acknowledge the truth in what you said about the desire to be seen. He inclined his body ever so slightly, attuning his ears to the sounds around him. I suppose I was unaware of just how deeply I longed for it, not merely attention, but rather the act of someone truly noticing, someone perceiving beyond the surface. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. In our relentless pursuit of caring for those around us, we often neglect the vital act of turning our attention inward and reflecting on our own well-being. One can easily find themselves adrift. "I believe I lost my way some time back," I murmured softly. For a brief moment, silence enveloped us, leaving words unspoken, then maintaining his tone and posture. Adam remarked, "I don't want to complicate your life, Laura. That's not the reason I made contact. It brings me joy to converse with you. That's all there is to it." It was the genuine quality of his voice that unraveled me. Devoid of flirtation or implication, simply the essence of human compassion. Felt unique, cherished in a way. Our conversation meandered for almost an hour, touching on the trivial, yet somehow encompassing everything of significance. The echoes of our childhoods, the meals that brought us comfort, the melodies that serenaded us through sleepless nights. I shared with him how, in the quiet moments of the past, I would sway alone in the kitchen while the kids were small, seeking a spark of life within me. He smiled as if it were the most exquisite thing he'd encountered all week. As we prepared to depart, a moment of hesitation washed over us once more. The now familiar pause lingered between us, enveloping us in a gentle shroud. He swung the door wide for me, and as I ascended into the light, he remarked, "Laura, if you ever find yourself in need of a conversation, or simply a moment to breathe differently, know that I'm here." I nodded, maintaining his gaze for a fleeting moment longer than was prudent. My sincere gratitude. We parted on that sidewalk, each taking our own path. Neither contact nor commitments, merely a shared comprehension. Yet, in the stillness of that night, as I nestled in bed beside James, his back facing me, his breaths came slow and steady, a sensation began to awaken within me. Neither guilt nor regret, only a profound awareness. A shift had occurred, and for the first time in many years, uncertainty loomed over what lay ahead. A week went by. I neither saw Adam nor heard from him. I also refrained from reaching out, not due to a lack of desire, but rather from a necessity to carve out space for introspection and to comprehend the turmoil within me. I traversed my days as if I were a woman bearing an unseen question tucked away in her pocket. The focus was not on Adam, not quite. The focus was on me. Whom had I transformed into? Who was I permitted to remain? As the evening unfolded and James ascended the stairs to catch the news, I lingered in the kitchen, methodically wiping the already pristine counter again and again. The image of myself in the window gazed back, a little older, a touch softer, yet undeniably present. Yet another presence. I reflected on the version of myself from years past, prior to the marriage settling into routine, before the girls embarked on their college journeys, before the silence grew so deafening. She twirled barefoot across the cool tile floors, left a trail of chaos in the kitchen, and lost herself in poetry under the dim glow of the night. That woman had not simply disappeared. She lingered in anticipation, and somehow, a solitary inquiry from a man I scarcely recognized had shattered the barrier I had constructed around her. That evening, I confided in James that I had something important to discuss. We gathered around the dining room table, reminiscent of our youthful days filled with dreams and the weight of our financial struggles. I gazed at him, truly gazed. The man with whom I had crafted a shared existence, the progenitor of my offspring, my companion. Even at this moment, I expressed that I have been feeling unseen. He blinked, taken aback. "Could you clarify what you mean? It seems to me that you no longer truly perceive my presence." I don't believe I've allowed you to. He reclined, arms crossed in contemplation. From whence does this arise? With a moment's pause, I weighed my words with precision. From a deep unspoken corner of my being that has remained silent for far too long, I refrained from mentioning Adam to him, not due to any concealment on my part. Yet, this was not a tale of another man, this was a reflection on the woman I had ceased to be, the woman I wished to etch in my memory. James cast his gaze downward, his fingers brushing against his jaw in that familiar gesture that signaled his uncertainty in finding the right words. I suppose I simply believed we had reached a level of comfort. We are, I declared. Yet I yearned for something beyond mere comfort. I yearned to experience the thrill of life once more. Silence enveloped us for what felt like an eternity, with neither of us daring to break it. For the first time in years we found ourselves truly present, united in a moment that transcended the mundane concerns of chores, schedules, and bills. In the end he inquired, "What is it that you require from me?" "I have yet to discover the answer," I murmured softly. "Yet, I must begin to uncover the truth." The following morning I set out for a stroll, without makeup, without a destination. Only the elements of air, sunlight, and the passage of time. As I made my way along the route, I found myself passing the quaint coffee shop nestled at the corner of 5th and Lawson. My feet came to a halt, as if guided by an unseen force. I lingered for a moment, observing the ebb and flow of people as they passed by. Upon entering, I stepped inside. Adam was absent, and oddly enough, I found a sense of acceptance in that realization. After placing my order for coffee, I settled into a chair by the window. I retrieved a notebook that had lain dormant for years. The pages lay untouched, yet an unmistakable sense of a new beginning lingered in the air. Not of an act that is reckless or forbidden, but rather of something essential. I was never in need of rescue. Romance and rescue were not what I sought. I simply had to remind myself that I was still present in this moment, that I still held value in being seen. As I savored my coffee and let my pen glide across the paper, a new realization dawned upon me. I had begun to recognize myself once more, and that sufficed.